love to look at the process, and I do really enjoy hanging out with salespeople. Um, but that's how Caleb and I got connected. Caleb's been working with partners for many, many years. He has a vast background. He's been, weren't you like president club winner like a few years in a row at HubSpot?
Yes.
Yeah, dude, killing it. So he is a huge resource. I think one of the things that people don't understand about selling to partners is it's like the consultant of consultants who's selling and helping deploy. So there's so much that can be learned from Caleb. One of the things I'm so excited to unpack with him today is, yeah, just this idea about scaling personalization and why it should stop. And so, like I mentioned, I've never really enjoyed being sold, but even though I knew the deal we were working at the very end, I was like, it's not going to go forward. I still wanted to get on the call with Caleb because I just enjoyed talking to him and hanging out with him so much. And I was like, dude, I know this isn't even fair because I don't even have a deal for you yet, but here's what we got going on. So, Caleb right now works for Supered. We'll talk about that a little bit at the end because there's some really cool things. If you haven't heard of Supered and you are a consultant, you're sleeping on it. That's for sure. But anyway, Caleb, thanks for coming on, man. Why should everyone stop scaling personalization?
Um, yeah, thanks. It is I realize it's a broad blanket statement, but the internet is not a place for nuance. So I'm still going to say it. I just think that there's this opportunity. You always have to look for these opportunities. And as ironic as it is, there's a trend towards everyone has always wanted to scale personalization. And so where is the ability to cut through the noise for salespeople, for brands, for anyone, for you talking to your friends? It is to be intensely human and intensely manual and intensely personalized. And the result of that, I've seen the result of that. I have a document that just makes me feel good about myself when I'm feeling bad about myself, of quotes, messages, people thanking me for prospecting into them, thanking me for trying to sell them Supered. And it's absurd, and I think this is part of the key.
What do you mean by stop scaling personalization?
Well, I just, I like, don't get, I love personalization tokens. You write an email copy, you say insert at company name, whatever. It's just, there are some functions within business I think that we just need to, if they're high value enough, and I think there are more functions of this than we understand in business. If they're high value enough, spend the time, make a personal video, write a handwritten note, send a screenshot, just like do the intensely manual thing. Um, that is impossible to scale.
Mm, yeah, that makes sense. When have you seen examples of this work for you? Or better yet, what's the point where it stops being personalized? Like that's probably what a lot of people are wondering. Because like, dude, Caleb, I personalized it. I put hey first name in my email. I added the personalization tokens. That's what they're even called, as personalization tokens. So when do you feel like that line is being crossed?
Well, I do think there are very good, very big use cases for that, and that's why HubSpot or other tools are like awesome for it. I think that I'll give you very tangible examples. Things that I have not scaled yet. Scaled, meaning used a robot or a template for. Yeah, okay. Um, LinkedIn posts. I write all those by hand. I think of those all personally. Why? Because my purpose on LinkedIn is to allow people to understand how I think, so they have context for me, of who I am even before we get on a call, right? So LinkedIn, I write all those by hand, right? One-to-one outreach, prospecting outreach. I will sit and research a company for X amount of minutes and research a person and read through all their posts and then spend a couple minutes making a 30-second personalized video for them. That is not scalable. I can only send out X amount of those a day. but it's worth it. Like, and I've seen outsized results for them. Another example, there are places of like automations I've built in, but another example, like if I have an active deal, I am going to sit and think about the recap email that I'm sending you case by case. I'll spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes rather than just sending it, because that is my way to think about and hone my point of view and come to the next meeting with like, hey, I've thought about this so you don't have to. Right? A robot did some of the thinking and I did most of the thinking, so you don't have to. So here's my point of view. And so those are three real examples within like the sales cycle where I do things very manually.
That's really smart about the recap emails, because then it seems like you're leaving them with something, but then to your point, then you have a good place of where you picked off. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah, I mean, who's going to read my recap email? Maybe 50% of them. But do we have a next meeting on the books? Yes. Am I going to open that next meeting and be like, you've been thinking about other things. I've been thinking about other things. This is my point of view. Has anything changed? And it just, boom, jumps us back into the frame of conversation right away. No wasted time.
Unpacking that more, how do you define true personalization?
Without getting into like, maybe it's just like semantics, but what I'm referring to is, I guess the heart of what I'm referring to is, when I say personalization, is investing time and or energy and or money, some sort of investment that is one-to-one, that translates into felt one-to-one experience by the recipient.
When have you seen that be received like super? Obviously, you gave good examples of people thanking you. When have you? What's an example of a time where you spent money on personalizing something?
This is just something cool that we do at Super, right? That I introduced. I'm not saying it. Take it for what it's worth. So there's this book called Unreasonable Hospitality that I read, and there's this idea of giving people more than they expect, right? At any point, just delighting them, giving more than they expect. And so we actually have a budget for this. I didn't fight, I asked for a budget and it was given, where it's like,
Awesome.
if someone does something, or even if they don't, can I spend money on gifting them something? It could be $5, $15, $30, $100. And so I believe in like just, giving gift cards, all that stuff but like, can I do something extra? So for some examples, like I had this friend refer a deal, right? And I know him. He doesn't need another gift card. He doesn't need XYZ. But I'm like, what would be cool is if I showed that I thought about him and I made it material. And so I asked some of our mutual friends, like, hey, what do I get for this guy to say thank you? And so there are these fires in LA. You probably know about them. And he used to live in LA. And he has a lot of connections there. And so he was talking about, hey, these are all these charities. Like, would you guys consider giving to them on a LinkedIn post? And so my friend was like, hey, what if you donate to that charity from your corporate account? And then told him it was in honor of him. And so that was like so cool, right? To be able to donate to the firefighters and widows charity of LA firefighters, print out the receipt, write a message, ask him how his kids are doing, mail it. And then, I know I'm talking about it now, but like, no, don't post about this on LinkedIn. That would defeat the purpose. I know I'm talking about it now, but like, how cool is that?
You're talking about it because I asked you, though.
Yeah.
I'm the one so you can blame me.
But how cool is that, right? It's like your thought, your effort, your money, and who knows if there's a positive ROI, but who cares?
That's so key. It's hard to take the time to do it, right? I mean, because there's a running task list that never seems to disappear. So how do you make the time and build this into your plan?
Well, I'll start with saying this. I'm intensely standardized, and I believe in this phrase: standardize to customize. So if you come into a sales process with me, Like, I know what path we're going down, and you're going to have to convince me really hard to deviate from this path. Like, I'm going to guide you down this path because I've done this hundreds and hundreds of times. I know what is helpful for you to say yes or no. I know you're unique, and so I will, but unless I have this path, I will not be able to customize properly with your time, with both of our time, unless I have some sort of standardization. So I have a standardized way of our sales process. I have a standardized way of approaching my day and how I keep track of my tasks. I have these systems in place that allow me to customize very quickly, right? And so, like, if I send a custom Loom video to someone asking them to meet with me, I've filmed hundreds of these Loom videos, so I kind of have the formula in my head, but the things that I say are different. So I'm not like recording the thing 12 times. I record it once or twice and then just send it, right?
What I'm hearing is that you've put the work already into building these blocks to allow yourself the time to think, or allow yourself the time to process about someone. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate. And we just have to get good at discernment, right? With everything in life. You just say, like, you come up against something and it's like, is this worth stopping everything and spending an extra 15 minutes? Is it worth it? Yes, no. Very quickly make the decision and then just boom, do it. Or don't do it.
Why do you think everyone is so obsessed with scaling everything in business?
Because it makes sense, right? It does not make sense not to. In theory, it does not make sense to say, I want my input and output to be one-to-one forever. That is, I don't even agree with that, right? No one would agree with that. So scale has been like elevated to this, God term, I call them, like this God philosophy. It's just no one can argue against it. You say, I'm scaling, and everyone's like, you're right. You are a good business person, right? So it just makes sense. But then we have to understand, you have to be able to differentiate. At what stage in a business should scale be the top priority? At what function in the business should scale be a top priority? And so you just have to have this discernment to be able to understand, like, yeah, I can scale this, meaning I can automate this or create this once and use it 1,000 times for this function in my business at this stage in my business. And that will be better than one-to-one. But then be able to discern, like, what are things that right now at our stage and what function I should not. And so, like, a very easy example in sales is if you have a high value target accounts, why would you scale them? You're going to be meeting with them one-on-one anyway. They're not going to be purchasing e-commerce style. So why wouldn't you do that manually, right? To increase your likelihood to book a meeting, to get the next meeting, to close the sale.
And why shouldn't it be a factor, to your point?
Why shouldn't what be a factor?
Why shouldn't scale be a factor with high value accounts or relationships?
Because that's just like a function of the business that you're not going to have a robot take over. Until a robot takes over that function, until your sales, like this specific example, until your sales process becomes robot driven, then why would it's just human driven? So if a robot's going to be less effective than a human in setting the sales cycle, then start it with a human.
And in theory, if a robot can do it, then your competitor's just going to do the same thing. And so therefore, there's going to be no magnet. There's going to be no stickiness to when things get hard. Why should I stay with you versus so-and-so down the street that promises that it won't be as hard, even if that's a lie?
Correct. And so, like, this is all going to shift, right? In a year, maybe we're going to be talking and be like, no, dude, I just use robots for everything. But I'm just like, that's where the discernment comes in, right? Like, I will discern in 6 months, what do I need to make a robot do? But right now, there's certain functions that I'm still more convinced are worth my manual effort and create a greater client, customer, whatever experience than a robot could.
Let's talk more about the human element. What makes certain functions distinctly human?
Oh, wow. That is a core question. Um, that I'm not going to give a direct answer to that, but what I will like the world you live in, professional services, the world I live in, SaaS for professional services. Like that's the question professional services companies need to be asking themselves every single day before they go to bed. Because what is professional service by definition? It's individual human custom services that cannot be provided by a SaaS company, right? And so like that's a question. I don't know the answer, Josh, but that's a
This is a
thought.
tough question. It's
That's a
not
thought
easy, man.
question.
I put, yeah. Where, okay, how about this? Where do you think we should at least draw the line? What are some things that you're learning where you're like, at least for me, this is what I'm going to do? Perfect example. This right here, I might be able to tune up an avatar to ask
That's
these
right.
questions and to know when to pause and when to do it. Am I going to do that? No.
Yeah,
As simple as the fact eye contact and distractions and whatever else, it's that human aspect is the reason why people are actually going to tune into this versus
that's
two
right.
avatars having a conversation.
That's it, right? That's the answer. What is the purpose? Ask yourself the purpose. Start with your why,
Mm.
right? What is the purpose? What is the purpose of me spending an hour of my time with you talking about this when we could have two GPTs talk to each other? It's because I want to have a conversation about that. One, right? It's worth my time to have a conversation. I'm assuming it's worth yours. And two, if we are doing this purely for viewership, which is a bad way to go into a podcast because no one's gonna watch this, um, that what would make a podcast not stand out? If a GPT made it, right? If a chat, whatever it's called, and what would make it stand out? Two individual point of views coming together and interacting together. So it's the same theory of why I have not 100% used ChatGPT to write LinkedIn posts. Because what is my
Mm.
purpose for LinkedIn? For people to understand my human perspective that is always changing, but at this point in time, understand who I am rather than trying to win their trust or win their confidence or familiarity within like 2 seconds. Like they already have a background of who I am and they may or may not want to talk to me based on that.
Mm. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of joking around about how now we're going to have to go back to purposefully putting in like typos and missaying phrases and things like that because everything's just too perfect. It's obvious that it's AI, and so it's like the human touch. So to talk a little bit more about this whole idea of what doesn't scale, human interaction, right? Um, what areas in your process that you've seen still require this individual human attention?
Yeah. I'll just talk very tactically, like for me, right? So first is like, the awareness, or whatever. So LinkedIn, that doesn't scale for me.
Mm-hmm.
One-to-one outreach, one-to-one. Um, I do some one-to-many, very little, very, very little though. So that means LinkedIn messages, videos, emails, one-to-one. That doesn't scale. The meetings, obviously, I'm running one-to-one meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my recaps, we use a tool called Ask Elephant. They have a workflow for us to create. I put the format, the standardization of my recaps into it,
That's
but
really cool.
I still spend time taking that baseline every single time to hone in like what I'm trying to say in my recap emails. My nurturing, this may be, I don't have a sequence or workflow that like automatically touches deals in pipe because they're too high value for me. Our ICP is
Mm-hmm.
too high value right now. Um, and so I look at my deal pipeline stage every single day, think about every deal in my pipeline for 2 to 5 seconds, and do something to make sure that I'm top of mind if I haven't been top of mind for the past 5 to 10 days. Right.
Mm.
So that's actually literally everything in my sales cycle up till close one. And there are automated aspects in there, like, but but still I give human attention to all five of those things in that process.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, there's the idea of templating is I think just wise in general. It's a smart way to work. Same with like, do we create a customized agreement or contract or activation link, whatever? Sure. Is it a template? Yeah, of course. Because why would we start from a blank slate every single time when we know there's going to be certain elements that we always put in there? Um, it's funny, Josh Gillespie over at Omni did an episode, and he was a head of sales and did sales at Panadoc for 10 years. He was one of their first sales reps. Um, but he also doesn't use sequences. And that was a big part of what he talked about. He's like, look, man, I don't. So for those of you who are listening, it's worth checking out that episode as well.
Mm.
Talk more about this whole idea of authenticity and
Hmm.
how that's benefited you, whether it be in the content creation side on LinkedIn or in your sales conversations.
Authenticity. It is so refreshing to be able to take off the corporate you and then just like be you, right? Now, who I am, who is authentically Caleb, it changes, right? I don't know. So like, that's a bigger conversation, but it is so nice to be able to write how I speak. Now, if I needed to write an essay, I could, but most of the time in business, like that's actually one of the things that is cutting through the noise now. Everyone has been trained to be adults and to be
Mm-hmm.
professional. It's great, like hello, I hope this finds you well. Uh, per our last conversation, these are the three business values, and then like, you know what I'm saying. And I use some of those. But it just becomes noise. There's just more noise, right? And then with AI now, no one knows if it's AI wrote it or if I wrote it. So it's just more and more noise. And so that's why when you go on LinkedIn and you see a thing with 3 rocket ship emojis and 4 green check marks, you're just like, yeah, I'm not gonna read that. um, it's like, but to be able to just like send you an email and have proper grammar, all that stuff, but just like be able to just speak how I think, to be able to get on this podcast and just say things that are kind of like the corporate me, just sort of that's too risky or that's like kind of, but it's so freeing to remove that filter of just like corporate speak. And I'm doing very serious things. We're creating very serious revenue right now. We're changing very like, but like we just need to have fun while doing it, right? And then just not feel like I have to play this like political game. Has to do with the size of our company as well. I'm sure if we're 100 million, it's different. But until then, I'm gonna send you a GIF or a GIF or whatever they're called.
100%. Yeah. It's funny how much gifs alone like cut through the noise because it's like a funny. It can be something relational, like whether it's the Great Lebowski, just like in the car. That's probably one of the ones I use the most, and it's like, oh, we both like that movie now. Oh, okay, that's what we can relate on. Good luck with that AI.
Yeah,
Of course, you'd have machine learning guys that are on this
yeah, it's
call
done
that get
already.
on
You
this
just
call and
said
be
that and
like,
it's done.
yeah,
Riverside
we're
just
like,
built it.
yeah, it's just an easy prompt change, bro. What are you talking about? You were talking about, at the beginning about this idea of, not this idea, about the fact that people thank you for prospecting them. Any of those stories come to mind that you want to share of when you look at those examples and you pull up that note for inspiration?
Yeah.
Yeah, any of those jump out at you?
Um, all yes, one of these. Okay. So I had this. It was probably like 8 to 10 months ago. Right now, my process. I researched the company. I honed a point of view on why we should talk. I did the thinking. I created a 30 to 50 second video, specifically talking to this person. And after a couple interactions, she booked with me. right? And eventually she became a customer. And one of the first things she said, she was like, that is the best outreach I've ever gotten. I'm like, really? Because that's the Vidyard playbook. Like, really? You know, Loom has been out for 8 years. Like, but no one does it, man. Like, I could say this and no one does it because they're lazy, because they're afraid, because they're boring. You know what I'm saying? Like, because they don't invest time in themselves and read books and become a person with personality and perspectives. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so anyway, so it sticks out to me. And I had a meeting with her, you know, a couple of days ago, and she's like, "Hey, I recommend my salespeople do it. None of them have done it. I'm going to start doing this. Like, still today, to date, it's the best outreach. And I've done hundreds of these, but somehow I stick out because I took more time than someone else would take.
By
So
the way,
that stands out.
For those who don't know, what is the Vidyard playbook? What is this playbook that you do? Like what
It's
was
like
kind of the
there are tools, video recording tools like Vidyard and Loom. They're the two big ones, right? And they just tell you to hold up a sign that says, "Hey, Josh." So the GIF in the beginning is that, and then you just send them a video with your face on their background and say, like, "This is why I want to talk to you." It's so simple.
It's so simple. That's
So
great.
simple. And
That's
but
awesome.
what takes it a step further is like, how can you communicate very, and this is the human, how can you communicate very quickly and make a person feel seen and feel important enough to have merited your thoughts, your perspective? And that is where that's where the human, the art element of it comes in. But the bar is so low, man. Here's
For the
another
sales guys
example.
listening, just freaking get a dry erase board.
No, I mean, it's not easy. I'll send a bunch. You know, it's a grind still, but
Sure.
you get these outsized reactions. And I mean, I'll give another example. Like one of my newer, like one of the reps on our team that I was in charge of training. I taught him all like my philosophy on all this stuff. I gave him this. He has never been in SaaS sales before. Business person, never been in SaaS sales. He just lost the sale, unfortunately, but whatever. He self-sourced it, and they sent him a swag bag and said, "Thank
What?
you for the sales process." It's lost. They sent him a
No
swag bag.
way.
It's so freaking awesome. Um, so that's like
What
the
made that different? What did they acknowledge? What was so different for them
they
that they're
just said
willing
like
to actually go?
you've made this more personal than anyone else makes it.
Hmm.
And that starts from the outreach. He booked it cold. He made them a video. He researched them. Right. And then through the whole sales cycle, our sales cycle is very standardized. I taught him this is how you run this call, this call, this call. But because we have that standardization, he has the freedom to be himself and to customize to their needs very quickly, starting from the outreach.
What results should listeners expect when they take this approach?
None.
Good answer.
You're going to get no results until you do it a million times. This is not a playbook, John. I think I told you this last week. Like the brilliant word. The minute a strategy becomes a playbook is the minute it stops working. So like none, man. You're gonna be disappointed. You're still gonna have to research for 8 days and days, but it have fun. It is a way to cancel through the noise. I have seen outsized results. You can see outsized results. It's not uncommon. One of my other sales reps, he booked 15 meetings in the first, 30 days of starting with the company. There are a lot of factors to that as well, but
Sure.
I mean, they get frustrated. I get frustrated. I spend days just like prospecting, but it's whatever, man. It's part of it.
For someone hearing about this for the first time or for the 100th time, and they're finally like, okay, I need to do this, how do they take action?
Um, I think it's just like, can you do deeper thinking? Get better at thinking. Get better at discernment. understand, ask questions like this. Probably the biggest question that marketers and salespeople and companies need to answer right now is like, how do I cut through the noise? How do I get someone's attention? How do I cut through the noise, right? So ask that higher level question. How am I doing this as a company? How am I doing this as an individual? And then only from then can you start to identify places in your daily functions where you say, is this high enough value for me to spend manual effort each time? For me, it's prospecting, recap emails, one-to-one meetings, right? But it can apply to customer success, finance, like just get good at thinking and discerning. So like I can give you the tactics, but the tactics don't exist outside of principles, that don't exist outside of frameworks, that don't exist outside of the heart of or the spirit of what you're trying to do.
Sure. What about we don't have to necessarily get all into the tactics, but is there any like creative approaches that you would say for someone who's just like, dude, I'm thinking as hard as I can, and maybe they haven't Googled it, maybe they haven't asked ChatGPT, which are very wise action steps.
Yeah.
But is there any other creative approaches that you've tested and you're like, man, this is just something you should just try? Just try this. You've already mentioned a few, but
Yeah.
anything you can think of?
Here's a creative approach. Read a book in your free time. Any book, read a book. You might enjoy it and you might become more interesting of a person. Okay, that's the first creative book. The second thing is, I just, some of the things I said, like these are very real tactics that I encourage every salesperson ever to think about. Creating personalized videos, creating, rather use a recap email or a deal room, like making sure that your follow-up is tight and is well thought out. Incorporate the follow-up into your next meeting, right? So those are like some of the tactics. LinkedIn, learn how to write, or it's not even learning how to write, learn how to give a perspective, or observe in yourself what you stop to read and emulate that and then expand on it, right? Those are some things.
That's good. How could someone easily get this wrong?
I mentioned it before, is if you focus on the tactics and not on the heart of the matter, right? If you go out, if someone goes out and films 100 Loom videos right now and sends them out, they could very easily get 0 meetings. It doesn't work. Well, it doesn't work because that's the tactic. But the heart of it is what I said, personalization. How do I make this person feel and understand very quickly that I thought about them, I researched them, and I have a point of view, which is why it's worth your time viewing this video and booking a meeting with me. And so cutting through all of that adds up into cutting through the noise. And when that becomes saturated, there will need to be another approach. But until then, do it. And it's cyclical, because some of the outdated stuff now becomes the way to cut through the noise.
Yeah.
Can I give you an example?
Please.
What is the noisiest place? Traditionally, it's our mailbox, our physical mailbox, right? The other day, I get a piece of mail from Nielsen Ratings, like this traditional, market research company. And I'm like, all right, I do open stuff just because I'm pretty curious sometimes and interested in other people's stuff. I open it, it's a $1 bill in cash money. It's $1, but it's cash money. And I'm like, you just cut through the noise. Let me see what else is in here. And then they asked me to fill out this survey and tell me, we'll give you $5 cash money if you send this in. I'm like, this could be a scam, but boop, boop, boop. I don't think it's a scam. Whatever. They already have my address. I send it back. Like 3 weeks later, I forget about it. Boom, cash money again. And now I'm talking about it to you. Like, they broke through the noise. And so What is the tactic? Send cash money to people. Is that going to work? Probably not. But they broke through the noise. It's not always going to work, but it worked on me, you know? And so like, that's the heart. How do I break through the noise um, and make it worth your time? And so that's like a good example.
That's great. That reminds me, I had a friend who I was over checking out their work and what they were doing, and we're over at their office, and he goes, "Hey, check this out." We go into a room, and there is stacks of fake bills, like stacks, dude, like so many. And they were loading them up in duffel bags and shipping an entire duffel bag. Like think of like a bank robber, like you just got a duffel bag of cash. And there was just a note in there that was like, when you're ready to turn this into real cash, let me know. And that was his outreach. I was like, man, talk about, to your point, like breaking through the noise. Like that's great. Here they are sending real money. That's crazy. That's such a good example.
And it's like, what part of this is also just like getting over yourself. Like some people are going to see that and they're going to be like, what has marketing come to? Like, is this, when are people going to provide real value again? And it's just like,
Yeah.
but what are you doing, man? I bet you're doing nothing. This guy's
Yeah.
at least trying, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So just
How
like
about
getting over
fake
yourself.
leads? Those are literally bought. They literally send them cash.
Yeah.
No, that's so good, dude. I love it. Uh, what would be one final thought that you'd give to people about just how to balance this human aspect? And yeah, what would be one final thought you'd leave them with?
Um, I'll be very open. I have a lot of larger questions about like business and what we're doing and like not us, but just like capitalism, everything. But one thing that I do not AI, the ethical role of AI, what are humans for? Like it's not a new. Uh, but one thing that I'd leave that I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm like will stay 99.9% devoted to my whole life and keep asking this question is this just like embracing, defending, um, furthering, enjoying humanity, like being a human. Like that question, there's a great book called What Are Humans For by Wendell Berry. And it's just
Mm,
stuck, or it's an essay. I don't even know. It's stuck in my head. What are humans for? And I just think about that over and over.
mm,
Like, and I've come to the point where I'm just like, it is so good to be human. It is so good to be human. And we just need to ask ourselves, is this making me more human or less human? And if it's making me less human, why? And is it worth it?
mm.
Right. And so, like, those guiding questions and thoughts are always in my head. Um, and yeah, they trickle down to how I do business. But that's like a big thought that I think is worth all of humanity asking ourselves over and over again.
Mm. That's great. We're going to shift gears here and talk about what you're excited about and anything you want to talk about with Supered, because that's a pretty good segue. Ironically enough, it does help you more efficiently work. I won't use the word scale,
Yeah.
but it does
It
help
does
you
help
more
you scale.
efficiently work. It does help you scale. Uh, Crazy enough in a very personalized way, but we'll leave that for Caleb can get it as much of that as he wants. But for the people wanting to connect with you, is LinkedIn? It sounds like that's your favorite place to connect.
Yeah, LinkedIn. I mean, you can always email it. LinkedIn, like I'm on there at least once a day, you know, just writing and commenting. So LinkedIn for sure.
Nice.
Um, and then you can easily contact me that way. If you go on our website, there's a way to contact us. But what am I excited about? I am really excited about Supered. I am really excited about the mission of what we're doing. Um, not necessarily not the mission, but just like our product is pretty cool, and the problem
Mm,
that we're solving is we're looking at it with a unique perspective, which I think is really cool. Um, but I think what I'm most excited about, Josh, is just like I just think part of me is forcing myself to say this, but part of me is really enjoying it. It's like how do I enjoy like this process of building a company? how do I enjoy this process of navigating these waters of like, what's a strategy versus a playbook? What is replicable? What is not? And how do I enjoy this process of like, yeah, commerce in general, which involves meeting other humans like you? Like, I don't naturally say like, I don't naturally love like, I just like love making money. Like I don't naturally love that. I naturally love a few other things. That's not one of them, but it's just a process that I'm in, a journey that I'm forced to be in. And so learning to enjoy like everything, because everyone's in this journey, it binds us together. The workplace binds us together. So that's what I'm excited about, and that's what I'm forcing myself to be excited about. Is like learning how to be very human in this process with people that are walking alongside or that I meet along the way. Um, yeah.
It's awesome. Well, that's all for this episode of Growth Success Stories. I want to thank you, Caleb. You crushed it, man. Your insights on how we should stop scaling personalization is really, really good. Love it. I definitely have some mental things I'm taking away for myself. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe wherever you want to get your podcast. Leave us a review. Until next time, I'm Josh Harkis. Keep growing. Dude, you killed